Yeah, great. And very sorry again that I could not make it to Laval this year, and being stuck home and need to do my presentation remotely. But anyway, we'll try to make it as lively as possible. Um, I don't know whether I can share my screen at the moment. The option has been disabled. So if you could allow me to share my screen.
Would just give us 5 seconds, say, Gregory.
No problem. No problem. Gregory will do that. Merci, Gregory. Perfect.
Voilà. C'est
I
parfait,
think
Xavier. C'est bon.
merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup. So, once again, thank you very much for having me this year at Laval Virtual 2021. And again, very sorry not to be able to be there. So I'm gonna talk, of course, today about VR in healthcare, which is what we do at Simple Health from the beginning of our history a couple of years ago, a little more than 5 years ago, actually. What I will try to do was connect a little bit this session to the next roundtable that we will be having in the half an hour from now on the use of VR in healthcare and how we have seen it in our practice grown in the last couple of years. So potentially what I will do is try to explain very briefly what we do for the people that would not know us at this time. So what we do is digital health simulation. Basically, what I tend to say when I'm talking about digital health simulation is we try to apply what has been working for aviation in the last decades. That is flight simulators that we all know and have all learned of. So what we do is we digitalize the healthcare environment to provide training solutions for healthcare professionals. So basically, what we are a specialized editor in the healthcare environment, and we use to do that various digital technologies that can be screen-based, and a lot of what we do is screen-based, and I will give a couple of words on this in the next slides, and of course VR that is here on this image here in this operating room. I will go very briefly over the description of Simple Health because it's not the topic of today. We have a triple expertise that is, of course, focused on technology, but technology is just a mean of what we do. We have two other expertise that are very important to me. That, of course, is the medical one. When you provide training to healthcare professionals, there has to be at the utmost level of expertise, of course, and pedagogy, because digital simulation is part of what we call simulation that has been practiced in the healthcare training process for, I think, since the beginning of medical studies or nursing studies. So pedagogy is, of course, very important. To host everything that we do, all the simulators that we have created, and this is the core business, and I think the heart of what we do at Simple Health, a platform called MedicActive, which is a SaaS-based platform, that hosts all the simulators that we do, whether they are screen-based on tablets or screen or VR, and that can be accessed, of course, online on all browsers 24/7, so that people can reach the simulators and the training contents that has been created for them. A couple of the references that the people that we work with, the institutions that we work with, just to give you an insight of our business model. We work, I would say, with all the academic centers, mostly in initial education and like the Red Cross, like nursing schools in France, like Stanford, or university hospitals, whether they are in Montreal in Canada or in France or elsewhere. And of course here, all the different industry players that you have, whether they are medical devices or pharma industry, that would use a lot our technologies to work mostly on continuous education to train already experienced doctors or nurses on new products, new drugs, new devices, whatever, or different ways of handling patients and taking care of them. So basically, as I said, we have a range of different products. The one that we will be focusing on today will be, of course, virtual reality simulators, where we recreate, and we mostly work here with HTC, as you can see on this screenshots here, this image here. This is a Vive Pro, and the screen-based simulators are here. And when it comes to VR in healthcare training, I think the idea is to, on this little scale here, this little timeline here of what is medical education, you go from books, from theory, to lecture in the first couple of years or couple of months of your teaching. And then you start working on clinical reasoning. That can be done using screen-based modules, where you're a doctor, in front of you is an avatar coming in to consult, and you have to understand why the patient is in front of you, and make the right findings about his condition, and propose him with the right treatments and the right medication. Then we move on to technical skills in what are usually called simulation centers. You can learn to work on mannequins, for example, intubating mannequins or insufflating mannequins, depending on the technical gesture, technical procedures that you have to learn. These are more simple procedures. They have to be learned, of course, and mastered, but they are simple. But then when it comes to getting to complex environments and more, complex procedures, or more complex environment, VR is, of course, very interesting. And you will see in the second part of my presentation that I have gathered a few examples of what we've done before in terms of VR studies. But of course, if you want to, the whole structure and the whole, the motto of what we do is something that is taken from the French higher health authority, the Haute Autorité de Santé, the HAS, that says never the first time with the patients. You should never be with a patient prior or before having been trained. We slightly modified this motto, and we tend to say never in training with the patient, because there is at some point always a first time with the patient. That seems obvious, but and important, but still. So that's where VR stands here, and that's where it is used mostly in the HCP training. And of course, then internship, practical skills, and then finally become a doctor or a nurse. Basically, the same timeline could be used for nursing studies, although there might be some differences between countries. When it comes to VR and in healthcare, and to give an insight of what I think, or what we think is the way that it's been, that it is coming on the market. I have taken this graph that is taken from a book that I would highly recommend to every one of you to read, if not already done, that is called Crossing the Chasm by Xavier Moore, Harper edition. And this graph, I think, is very important. We all know this curve here between innovator, and this is the technology adoption life cycle. So from innovators to laggards, you can divide the life type adoption into different sectors. And the work of Geoffrey Moore has come to this chasm here that I think is very important, that says that at some points in between early adopters, people that are enthusiastic about the technique, that are enthusiastic about the technology, that will be there very, very early. They are not innovators, because they are a little more than innovators, so it's starting to grow, but there is a chasm here that needs to be crossed to reach the early majority of people that will use the technology, whatever it is. And to our extent tonight, I think that this applies very much to the VR in healthcare, because I think this is exactly where we are. And if we link that to this study that I've read yesterday, thanks to Denise Silber. I don't know whether Denise is listening, but thank you, Denise, for sharing that yesterday. This is the sales of VR helmets, headsets for 2021 Q1. And it's quite interesting in terms of grow, because you see that the commercial part here is growing. It's still slow. It's still lower than the consumer parts that is growing, I think, a little bit, well, it seems at least, to be growing a little bit quicker. And this source is from IDC Corp. And this is a link that you can easily find on the internet. It's very easy to read it, and it's a very interesting article. It's a short reading, but worthwhile finding the link. And this applies pretty much to what we've done. And this is where I wanted to come to with this first part of my talk tonight, was how it started for us and where is it going for Simple Health. From the very beginning, our only aim and our only goal is to do training tools, training simulators for healthcare professionals. We don't do anything else. We are not yet involved, or we're not involved with patients education. We're not involved in the many different other parts of VR use in the healthcare environments. And it all started for us back in January 2027 in terms of VR. Actually, it was in 2016 because we developed, of course, prior to go there. But in very early January 2027, we were at the CES in Las Vegas, the famous consumer electronics show. And when we get out of the plane in Vegas, our CEO, Jérôme Leleu, received a text from the CES organization saying that we were awarded one of the foremost innovative solution in the healthcare, health and wellness environments. And what we were presenting at the time was our first VR realization. And the idea, or at least the topic, the scenario, was a patient coming in the emergency room, being driven there by the paramedics. And the patient has a pneumothorax. The pneumothorax can be lethal, and it requires a lot of different procedures. Of course, first to understand what the patient is suffering from, because it's a chest pain, a very strong chest pain. So it can be anything from a heart attack, stroke, whatever different conditions there are. But in this time, it's pneumothorax. So the idea, of course, is to assess the patient quickly in order to be able to cure him properly. And actually, the cure is trying to point this big syringe here onto the lungs, at least a little very specific space into the lungs, toward the lungs, to remove the water that is or the air that is compressing the lungs and preventing the patient to breathe normally. So it's quite nice to do in VR because it's actually fun. You actually stab the patient with this huge needle, which is fun. And it, of course, as one can understand, it's a lot easier to do that on an avatar than on the real patients, obviously. And this led us to have a collaboration with Stanford Medicine. Of course, that for us was a very, very big achievement because at the time we were a very small company from Bordeaux. We're still in Bordeaux, but working with such a great name as Stanford gave us a lot of visibility. And Stanford asked us for their resident to prepare a VR training on cardiovascular access. And the idea was to train the residents, certain students in cardiovascular to place and insert a stent into a patient. So you have here an image of what it was. And the year after, so this was in 2017, sorry. And the year after, we went back to the CES with HTC, at the time on the HTC booth, and we modified a little bit this first experience here into a multiplayer scenario where you could play remotely. Two players could be in the same room remotely, in the same VR environment remotely, one being in, I don't know, Bordeaux, the other one in Vegas, to treat the same patients. And from there, we've started working on different topics, on different subjects. And I have worked, and I've selected a couple of ones just to give you a short idea of the evolution, or at least the project that we've been working on. We've worked in 2018 with the French Society of Ophthalmology. They were holding their congress in Bordeaux, so southwest of France, and they wanted something very innovative. And at the time, HTC just announced the very first version of the Focus. At the time, it was still 3DOF, and we equipped all the participants. It was more than 40 doctors at the same time with the helmets. And the idea was to have a little journey into the patient upper airway management system. So going through the nostrils into the laryngeal part for patients suffering from sleep apnea and snoring, to understand, I would say, physically what was causing these sleep apnea in terms of soft tissues that are stuck here on the upper airway management and the larynx of these patients. So there was a very nice experience with Scientific Society. We worked a lot with the industry for different projects, whatever they are. Here it was to accompany the launch of a wearable device in the cardiology. So they had the wearable to monitor patients' cardiac condition on the long time, on a long haul basis, and they needed this VR scenario to embark on board cardiologists on the new device. And here is one little video that I wanted to show you. I hope the quality of the image will be good. This is the very latest realization that we've done with one of our customer. And what I wanted to show you, and just confirm that the video is good and it's not lagging when it starts, of course. So I will go break. So the idea here is working on fertility medicine. So we've worked with the sponsor, I would say, a pharmaceutical company called Ferring, that is from Switzerland, and they are very much involved into the fertility and fertility medicine fields. And the idea was to train young doctors on puncturing or getting the oocytes when you want to do in vitro fertilization. So the idea was to reproduce what this doctor here is doing on the right with an endoscope, and train people with the VR. It was a Focus Plus at the time. So the idea is to puncture, get the oocytes from the woman vagina, and then analyze them. And as you will see, there's all the technique that has been reconstructed, all the different devices. And with your controllers, you're able to see here the egg, and the little swimmers here, the little spermatozoid, sorry, that will be kept and inserted into the egg. Then, so these are two simulators. One is the first is the puncturing of the oocytes, then it's the fertilization per se, and then the third one, of course, that is almost finished and that will be presented to the customer next week, is going to be put the egg back again into the woman's vagina, so that at some point she can be pregnant. So I think this project is very interesting because it shows to me very much what we can do in terms of accuracy, in terms of VR. It can show that really we've come to a point where there are actually real case studies, and this will be, of course, this has been created by Ferring in France, but it will be deployed to other subsidiaries in other countries, translated into different languages and different environments, so that people can use it in the States or anywhere else worldwide. So the case studies are here. And at the end, of course, of each step, and I've taken this it's a screenshot from the simulator, you have an assessment, and you're able to see exactly what you've done right, what has been performed, and of course, as a student, as a trainee, but of course also as a trainer, you can see what your students have been doing. Another example for nursing in terms of home care nursing. So you go to your patient's house and you have to take care of him. And this one is also quite interesting because all different steps, it's very procedural. So VR does apply very well. And the one that I wanted to finish with is a series of modules that we've developed for initial nursing training in France. Nursing schools in France are managed by the regions. They are called IFSI, Institut Supérieur de Formation Infirmière, so the nursing schools. And we've developed a series of 11 simulators. 9 are screen-based, but 2 are VR. And what is very interesting is that we have equipped already more than 35 nursing schools in France with VR equipments. And when I say VR, it's Vive Pro. So it goes with the computer, it goes with all the different cables. And the return that we have from these schools that are not huge pharmaceutical labs, that are not large corporation with a lot of funds, do find an interest in these techniques. And when you have the right business model and when you have the right products that fit with their requirements in terms of pedagogy, in terms of contents, then it can work and it can happen. And I'm quite proud also. I'm in charge mostly of the international development at Simfo Health, and actually it's very much set for the French way of doing the French referentials, but we've sold to one Moroccan establishment, one Moroccan private nursing school in Casablanca. And we're very proud of that because it shows that, once again, with the right pricing, with the right product, VR can really be something that spreads. So if I go back to the macroeconomic slide of the life cycle adoption of new technologies, I think that we are still with the early adopters part, but we are moving into the next round, and we I think are crossing this chasm, and hopefully in the next couple of months it will go quicker. I didn't mention during this talk the sanitary crisis that we have all been through in this last couple of months. That is, of course, also, at least as far as we're concerned, in terms of a company that does remote training, quite important, and it has been something that will participate into the development of these technologies. So just to give you a last word on where it's going. As far as we're concerned, we are specialized into training, and we do not have the plans to go to other usages of VR in healthcare, such as mental health, digital therapies. This is not of our scope, and will not be the one in the next couple of years, at least. We've seen, and I have had some requests from moving from very technical procedures. I have to insert a stent, I have to prepare a blood transfusion, I have to take care of a patient on a very specific procedure, towards more soft skills. And this image here is taken from a project that we've done with one large pharma company. And the idea was to help their doctors in certain parts of the world, and especially in the Middle East. And it's been also finally deployed in Asia on how to announce a very bad news. And in this case, a metastasized breast cancer. So you see this patient here has got breast cancer. And the idea is to understand for the doctor, and you're the doctor, that if you go directly to this here bubble here with the pill, talking about the treatments, or if you go here with the molecule on the disease per itself, trying to explain what is a cancer and how it works and the consequences of cancer, the patient will not hear you, because before doing all that, you have to click here on this bubble with this crying smiley, where that is representing her fears and emotions. And if you click there, the patient will ask you if she's going to die, if she's going to lose her hair, if she'll be able to have children after the treatment and everything. And only once you have answered these questions, you can move to other topics. Otherwise, it's not worthwhile. And the last word that I wanted to say, and I think I'm almost on time, was the training for patients. We have had some requests about that.